This is definitely the wrong drop-off location. Glad they didn't tow it.
What's up guys, my name is Jason. Today I'm going to be talking about my first 5 months on Turo. Without further ado, let's jump right into this. So just as a brief disclaimer, this is simply my experience. I have one car on Turo. It's my old Honda Insight. I've only done 18 trips over the last 5 months. I'm certainly not an expert in the app, nor do I run an entire business with several cars. Just keep that in mind. This is simply my opinion from my experience over the last 5 months. So just to give some sort of background on how we wound up on Turo, my wife and I bought a Honda Insight when it was brand new back in 2010. We paid cash for it outright. We've used it as our main source of transportation for the last 10 years. We finally made an upgrade to a Toyota RAV4. We are just a one-car family, so we didn't really need this Honda Insight. We reached a point where we're either gonna sell it or just let it sit in the garage until it was basically worth nothing. But Turo came along after doing a little bit of research, and I realized this could be a good alternative for the car. The app does give you full control over how you're gonna run your business or how you're gonna rent your car out. My strategy when I first got started was to basically undercut all of the competition and have the car listed as the cheapest on the market in the Denver area. There were basically no restrictions on mileage. I think that may have been a mistake because what wound up happening though is people were renting it out and sort of not caring about the car itself. It does have a little cosmetic damage already going into it. So it looks like they've put little scratches here and there that were too tiny to really report to Turo. I think if this was a newer car, something 2015 or newer, or a higher end car, whoever would rent it would take more care of it. If it was a Tesla renting out for $140 a day and there was a scratch on it, the scratch would be super obvious and it would be something that you would actually want to get repaired. But since my car is only worth about $6,300, I'm not going to rush to the repair shop every time it gathers a scratch. Another thing I have changed since then on the app was I used to let it go for 1 day at a time. And that is not really worth the turnaround on it because there was one day, I think it had rented out for like $22. After the fees, I had gotten like $14. I wound up waiting for the guy for like 40 minutes. He was late from the airport and it just wasn't worth my time. So now there's a 2-day minimum on this. Because once you start waiting for people to arrive, they're texting you, there's delays, more waiting. That income becomes less and less passive, and that's not really what I wanted on this. Something else that I'm doing now is I'm not waiting on people. If they're telling me that there's any sort of delay, what I'm letting them know is that the car's in the pickup location, the key's in the gas cap, please take as many pictures as you want. I'm not going to meet you there because I don't have the time to wait around for these people. This is supposed to be passive income. But since I've implemented a couple of changes on the app, it's gotten a little better. There's no problems with the app. Just keep in mind, you're gonna run the business how you want to. If you're fine renting your car out for 1 day at a time, then that's up to you. If you wanna have it only rent out for a week at a time because it's not worth the trouble, that's also up to you. So over those 5 months, I have made $1,539. On top of that, there were 3 incidents which I did get paid out for 2 of them, and that was an additional $1,600. That's taken my 5-month income to $3,139. In 5 months, that's about $627 per month. That's not bad, but keep in mind, I am treating this like a small business, so there were operating expenses. And I needed an oil change when I first got started. I needed new windshield wipers. I needed new tires. Recently, I needed new brakes. I needed a pair of snow socks because we are here in Colorado. A lot of people are taking this small car to the mountains. I needed another oil change just yesterday. That totals to about $1,240. If we subtract that from the $3,100 that I made, that's still gonna be $1,900 after those expenses. And that averages out to $380 per month. I did have 3 incidents though. The first one happened on just my 4th trip. A guy had told me up front, brings the car back, there's about an 8-inch scratch with some scuffing on it. I'll show a picture of this here. The app was really good in taking care of this issue because I do have the insurance that takes 35% and it's fully covered. The app had paid out about $480. So at that point, I decided to just buy a cheap little kit, which I think is right here, to fix scratches and blemishes. And I fixed it up a little bit myself. The scratch is still there, but I'd rather pocket that $480 than taking it to a professional and have it fixed. A couple weeks later, there was another issue where a woman was driving with it. A small pebble hit the windshield. It fractured it about 18 inches across. Reported it to the app. They actually sent a whole team out to replace the entire windshield about 3 days later, which I would say is a pretty quick turnaround. I was happy with that. I had another issue a couple of weeks after that. It looked like a guy had backed into something or someone had backed into him. Again, this is rear fender damage. There was a large dent in the car as well. I'll show you a picture here. And they had paid out about $1,100. That was a pretty good chunk of change. I went on eBay, I bought a dent repair kit, and I pulled the bulk of the dent out for just 25 bucks. So in that instance, again, it was better for me to just pocket the extra money and count that as income. But here's the larger issue. I recently went in to get an oil change, and the guy had said afterwards that there was damage to the skid plate and the screws were missing, the bolts were missing. And I'm thinking, okay, is there anything under the skid plate that's worth money? Is there a part that anyone could just take off? He's like, no, the only thing there is your oil pan and then your oil filter, which is a little higher up. So I'm not sure both how the skid plate got damaged and what happened to the bolts off of it. I don't know if someone had dented it completely and it was dragging on the ground, so they just took the bolts, bent it back in place, and put it up with zip ties, because they did say it was up with zip ties. But things like that can be really detrimental to this small business. If there's hidden damage somewhere in the engine, internally, something under the chassis that I'm not noticing, it's gonna come back to bite me later on. I can't do a full inspection on this car after every person returns it. All I'm seeing is cosmetic stuff. This car is now 9 years old. I'm willing to bet that there's gonna be an issue sometime within the next 3 months where a part of maintenance is gonna come up or something's gonna break on it to where it's not worth the time and effort and money to repair it, because I would have to keep it on the app so much longer to recoup that money. At that point, it's just gonna be better just to sell the car to get rid of it. And that's kind of how it felt over the last 5 months. When I replaced the brakes, I'm like, okay, now it has to be on the app because I want to recoup that money. Granted, I could just completely take it off the app and then view it as having brand new brakes on a car that I've already made money on. But then again, it's just sitting in the garage. This situation is really going to vary depending on your personal situation. If you have 2 or 3 cars, it may be a good idea for you to put one of them on Turo. If you only have 1 car, I would not put that on the app. I have a very nice Toyota RAV4 that I enjoy. It's our main vehicle. I would never put that car on the app because I don't want the mileage going on to it. I don't want people driving it. I have my kid's car seat in there. I don't want people messing with anything in the car. I'm just too attached to it. But for the Honda Insight, it doesn't matter. I can let them run it into the ground. So that was my experience with Turo over the last 5 months. It's a good app. It works for me currently. It may not in a few months. It may work for you or it may not. Leave a comment below. Let me know how it's been, and I'll see you next time.